quoted at $200 a square foot is probably.
It is 3 o'clock. I will call this meeting of the Campus Reconfiguration Committee to order and ask our clerk to take a roll, please.
Carol.
Here.
Schoonover.
Here.
Manning. Here. Terry.
Here.
Kirk.
Here.
Frank. Williamson.
Here.
And you got a quorum.
And are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting properly noticed.
Very good. Okay, committee, we have a 13-point agenda before us. Motion by Mr. Manning, second by Mr. Schoonover to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right, so you could also have the minutes from the November 19th meeting circulated to you. Any questions, comments, feedback on those minutes? Hearing none, the chair will declare those minutes to be approved as presented. Item 6 is public comment. Do we have any members of the public here that wish to comment to the committee this afternoon, either here or online? Hearing none, we'll move forward to item 7, which is reports, starting with our update from SEH.
And we have Nate and Brian online, so I will let them give us an update of where we're at with things. And we can't hear you if you're talking.
Thanks, Tricia. Does everyone need an overview of the market analysis that was included in the packet today? I'm happy to go through that.
Do you have like the 1-minute version you could do for us?
Yeah, I can. Let me do the 1-minute version.
Okay.
So, overall development visions, what was suggested by the analysis? First thing was demolish the unusable campus buildings, meaning the library, the classroom, science buildings to prepare pads for office development. Repurpose the student center theater. There's still some value left in it, and we should consider the potential use for that building. Third, develop housing on the upland areas, include single-family homes, townhomes, duplexes, senior apartments, whatever makes sense once we get into it a little deeper. Maintain the recreation areas, integrate the trails, paths, and connections to the Simons Recreation Complex and high school. Enhance access with a new internal road supporting redevelopment. And finally, preserve the character on Highway 14 frontage to avoid incompatible uses that could potentially harm residential value. So that is the 1-minute version. There's quite a bit of info in there. So please take a look. Reach out with any questions you might have from that. Otherwise, we are using that information to go forward with the plan at this time.
Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
In your section 2.6 on projected housing demand, you've got some charts in there showing projections by demographic groups through year 2035. My question is, for example, let's just pick the 25 to 34 age group. When this says, for example, 729 in 2025, is that what does that number mean?
Let's see. It's hard for me to see that. I guess the population's declined 10% since 1950. Let me look at this a little larger here. The 729 number you're looking at is the 25 to 34.
So would that represent 729 households of that age group within the county? Is that what we're seeing there?
In 2025, in 2030, and 2035. Yep.
Okay.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that makes it sound like the heading for that section says demand for households. Now, this doesn't mean that's existing or the assumption of how many there would be, but not new demand.
No, that's kind of showing the out migration of younger residents. That's something the report brought up as well.
That's not what I'm asking. My point is, when I see any one of those numbers, not just that one, even in the older age groups, the numbers represent current households with that age group or current plus demand expectation. Which is it?
Let's see, this is
I believe the 2025 numbers would be current, and then the 2030 and 2034 number, the 2030 and 2035 numbers are projections.
yep, that's correct.
Okay. And that's just four numbers of households in that age group.
And I think
Right, but it doesn't tell us.
if you look at the paragraph on the bottom of that page, if you scroll down a little bit more
Yeah.
or up, it'll say that, additional 109 units of houses annually over the next decade is what the need is.
So the charts are basically just showing us demographic and population type stuff, and then they translate that to housing need in the text.
That's what I'm saying. I think a chart, unless I'm not reading it right, a chart just showing new demand would be what we'd want to see, not just current households, but new demand projection in numbers. It's not going to be 1,000 new units. It's some smaller number.
It's 109 units is
Where-
what they're,
where you-
in the bottom of page 11, in the third sentence, it'll say additional 109 units of housing annually over the next decade. Broken out to about 71
Okay, I see.
units and
But that's
38
not
rentals.
broken down by age group then.
Correct.
Okay. I guess what I'm saying is that it's kind of important to see what they project, whether it needs to be senior housing or new family housing or that kind of thing.
And I think the report, and if I'm speaking for you, Nate, let me know. The report does talk about that there is a huge demand for senior housing coming, that's going to be our greatest growing population for the future. And that is part of this report talked about the need to have or consider building senior housing on that
As a
property.
general concept, I get it. I'm just trying to understand if these numbers are trying to actually identify an actual number.
Yeah, I think kind of, if I can just chime in, I think just kind of taking the data together and looking that the chart shows some of the trends by age group. And so you can see that, obviously it's the older age groups that trend upwards, that 25 to 34 trends upwards a little bit. The others are declining. How that translates into exactly what that means for housing units is more in total, because it's hard to kind of get a handle on how turnover in units and what units are demolished and that sort of thing. But it's showing kind of in total kind of where the demand is, kind of what types of housing units are going to be in larger demand. Then, just trying to figure out how that meshes with the existing market conditions, the existing offerings within the market. But I think that's what kind of the report in total is trying to kind of help.
Yep,
there isn't
that's right, Brian.
definitive, like you need this many units that this many, that this age person is going to live in. But I think it's just kind of giving a picture of kind of the overall dynamic of the housing market.
Yeah, I guess the 109 units in your text is the main takeaway, but I was hoping for a breakdown of that on how much needed to be senior versus detached or whatever.
Sure. The buyers most often, as described in the analysis, are ages 35 to 64. Seniors represent about 25% of those buyers. So like Brian had said, this graph is is showing the 25 to 34 is trending up and the senior buyers are trending up.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
That bottom paragraph, did that say 109 units annually, like per year? That's what that says.
Yes.
So that is 109 units a year over the next decade.
Yep.
That's all. Thank you.
And that figure is for the whole county.
So
So,
understood.
yep.
Right.
Other questions?
I think the second thing that's in the packet from SEH is their proposed community questionnaire. Their survey.
More questions on this.
I'm sorry.
You first, I'll get to you.
Just trying to be polite. He talks more about the vacancies. What I recognize that maybe some vacancies are maybe only part of the year or whatever, but I couldn't believe how many vacancies you guys are showing in the county.
On
Yeah,
the
I
bottom of page 8.
Yeah, I was frankly surprised by that as well. We can maybe make note of that and go back to, so Michael Stumpf, our partner at Place Dynamics, put together this analysis. We can see if we can dig into that a little bit further.
That would be good.
Yeah, I would echo that data does not align with what the current housing market represents, number of houses on the market. Doesn't align with verbal surveys that have been done by the mayor, myself, other people regarding places available to live. And there's plenty of testimonies out there about people putting up places to rent and them having 25 applicants for places to rent. So that data was very surprising to me. So I would appreciate a review of that. That would be great.
Yeah, my gut tells me that, some of that is more seasonal type of, so there isn't anybody actually living there as their permanent residence, but it's not necessarily on the market either. And so that's where I'd like to dive into that a little bit further with Michael, but it could be VRBO type places that people own that isn't a permanent residence, but isn't on the market either.
Anecdotally, I would just confirm that even from my neighborhood when I walk the dog around. There are houses that nobody's living in right now, but they are not on the market and they're not available. So. Nobody shovels their sidewalk.
Well, and I'll agree with you guys, in the rural areas, it's even more.
Yeah.
All our small farms are gone. Our woodlots are all divided up, and it is, the vast majority is absentee owners. So, okay.
Good enough. Okay, did you have another question, Jason? Good, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Carroll? All right, then we can move on to the survey.
So they did present with us a community survey that they asked us to look over. So I did put it in the packet for you guys to take a look at, and I think they are looking, SEH is looking for input on the survey.
Yeah, if I might jump in, I just this is a draft. This is just kind of our first draft at trying to put together questions that will provide valuable data for us to use in this analysis and for you to use as you direct this work and this redevelopment. We thought it would be important to start with just kind of a current state of affairs type of a statement, just to kind of bring everybody up, provide a photo, a map of the site, kind of talk about what's happening currently, just address, kind of dispel any concerns that Simons might be going away in any way. So just making it clear that that's going to remain on the site long term, that the athletic fields and the gymnasium and Melville Hall are in the process of being sold to the district for their use, that Science Hall, Miller Library, and the classroom building are kind of beyond their useful life and planned for demolition. and that the Wallace Student Center is planned to remain at this point in search for a new use. And so, again, just kind of wanted to start with this going out to a general population, just making sure that everybody kind of has that, that educational component. If there's other education that you'd like to do, I found that surveys are a good way to do that, because people will take a look at it, and it's a good opportunity to maybe dispel any myths or kind of set the record straight on anything. So if there's other opportunity for that, certainly let us know. And then getting into the questions, we like to kind of have a mix of some open-ended stuff, which is a little bit harder to analyze, but still can provide some good nuggets of data and brainstorming type of stuff. So a mix of that, and then some just some more fixed answers that we can analyze a little bit better and provide some solid statistics on. But opening up with just the one thing that you'd like to see happen, it's just kind of a real open-ended, but also a very short box there. We didn't make this a paragraph type of a thing, but just tell us one thing that you really want to see happen there. And then it gets into just, do you think housing is important? And if, and then, what types of housing? And then do you think new business and office is important? And then, what types of business and service uses could you see? Is recreation important? And then what type of recreation would you like to see? And then there's a question on just concerns. What concerns you about this opportunity that exists here, and moving forward. This gives us insight into what we really need to make sure we get right with this work. And then we wanted to ask, because that Wallace Student Center we feel like has a little bit of value left in it, we wanted to just pose a question about that. This may be something we want to change, and so I'd be looking for some of your input on this. But we heard in a previous conversation that maybe an event and performance venue maybe isn't the right use for that, and so maybe we want to switch this question up a little bit. And then that number 10 kind of goes along with that. And then we like to do kind of a ranking, and so this allows people that are either for everything or against everything or whatever in the previous questions to make them kind of set a priority and give us some insight into what people really like to see or maybe aren't necessarily as interested in. And then we end with just kind of what else do you want to tell us as we go about this work? And then give them an opportunity, thank them for participating, and then give them an opportunity to enter their email so we can, send updates and just start to gather contact information for folks that are interested in the work that's happening here. So there's your, sorry, I went a little long on that, but there's your rundown of the survey, and certainly open to any thoughts, questions, comments, other questions, other things we might have missed.
Committee members, Mr. Carroll.
I was wondering if it'd be possible to do that ranking scheme on a couple other questions, like question 3, give it a little more nuance. I don't know how we're going to roll this out, what kind of software, but that might be helpful.
Yeah, I think we could. The challenge with that is that we've included a couple spots for other answers and write-ins, and so that sometimes when you ask to rank and not everybody has those filled in, it sometimes skews some of the statistics. But it's not, it's just you got to analyze it in a little bit different way, which I think we can accomplish. But if you'd like to see those as more of a ranking as opposed to just a choose all that you want to see out there.
Mr. Manning.
What was it, 2 or 3 years ago, we had a company analyzed every one of the buildings out there. And from what I understood, they thought it all cost way more money than what they would be worth to retrofit them. So did I just hear you say that you did think some of the buildings have value without any of them?
I think the only one they're talking about potentially retaining for other uses, the Wallace Student Center.
Right, and that's what I'm a little confused about. The other half is like, it costs you way more than what it costs. And now
Well,
am I hearing that maybe some of them do have value? That's what I want to make sure.
based on what we've heard from them, it seems like that would be the only one. And I guess my thought on that would, as we're telling people consideration of like a performance venue, making it clear it would not be a county operated facility because we don't have the capacity or resources to do that. But I don't know how other people feel about that possibility. Maybe here, Mr. Carroll.
I say, let's just kind of not rush it, you know. Give it time to see if something pops up. There's no reason to, no imminent reason to tear it down.
Right.
I also have a question on the survey.
Okay, go ahead.
How are we gonna roll it out? How's it gonna get deployed and to get the widest participation?
I think that was one of the questions when they sent it to me to ask and asked us. I mean, we would probably look to put it on Facebook, on our website. We would ask the city if we could put it on their website. And I think other ideas, we're open to hearing about them. And pending the timing, we could maybe with votes coming, our elections coming up, we could potentially see if we could put it at the town shops for that.
Mr. Perry.
We just heard information about how our county's aging. And we can't, if we're gonna do an accurate survey, it can't just be online.
Right.
It'll have to be
Yep.
done in some other way for
Good
some
point.
people, because a lot of, I'm sorry, but a lot of the older people don't do computers.
Right?
Mhm.
We could certainly look to get paper surveys available, whether it's here at the county offices or maybe at the senior center in town or meal sites or places like that. So,
The clinics.
yep. They'd be willing to cooperate with us, sure. So yeah, you're right. We need to look at lots of other avenues. And for SEH, you'd be able to handle paper surveys if we had people completing it in that fashion, I assume.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do that all the time with paper surveys and digital surveys. And another technique that worked pretty well for us was putting a QR code on bookmarks that we make. And then you can kind of give those out to the, city hall or the county offices or the library. Again, it's kind of digital, but you have the piece of paper that someone can pick up and at least do it on their own when they have time.
You could leave surveys at Simon's.
So, Mr. Glassman, go ahead.
I have a thought. I don't know if it's a good thought or not, but one of the things in looking at the survey that occurs to me is that it's framed in a way that is quite positive, which can be good, but it also, if we're not careful, can create false hope. So, for example, if we're not careful, we'll find that we'll have the entire community excited and the county excited about additional recreational land when I know the city for sure, and I know the county has had their share of struggles with budgeting, and recreational land typically comes with the cost of maintenance. So just wondering how those things, get considered and to be careful with the phraseology so that we're not creating false hope in a place where there's no strategic planning, there's no future budgeting available for the actual development of these things.
That's a valid concern. And certainly, we wouldn't want to present this as a, hey, this is where you tell us what we're going to do kind of thing. This is gauging community interest. And if a whole lot of people are interested in a recreational opportunity, maybe this isn't the way we do it, but then do we consider other ways?
But I think it's also then they would work with developers who are interested in coming in and creating recreational opportunities and activities for the community. It wouldn't be us, it wouldn't be the city. It would be an outside developer coming in saying, okay, there's a demand to have a ice rink here and let's work on getting that created.
Other questions? Any other specific feedback on the survey questions that you'd like to give the folks at SCH at this point? Otherwise, if you have something you think of afterwards, reach out to Trish and she can be sure to funnel it through to them before they finalize things.
Guys, a
Mr.
question.
Lins, go ahead.
My name's Al Lins. I'd like to circle back to the market analysis that was done. The county had a housing study done in 2024, and it indicated that about 20% of the homeowners in Richland County were cost burdened. What in your proposal addresses that segment of the population?
Is that a question for us?
Yes.
Okay. I would just say, I mean, we're not yet to kind of the proposal phase of this. I think we've gathered some market data. We're working to kind of next phase is gather some public input. And then the next phase would then be to start to engage with developers that would potentially be interested in coming in and using this property to meet market needs. And so, I think the type of housing, I think, part of that market data does, point to exactly what you're saying. And so I think that's part of the mission is to then develop a plan and identify the funding resources and the partnerships that are going to, make development feasible there that is going to meet market needs. And so I think we'll get there. But I think it's a little early to try to answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the analysis does go into it a little. It's about half the buyers need housing below 250,000, but obviously construction costs make that a challenge right now.
See our friends from NHS nodding their heads too.
There's ways to accomplish it.
Mr. Carroll.
I don't know what their next step is, but you threw out the idea of modular housing as a way to help with cost. Is that going to be something that they would also consider?
Yes, that would be up to a developer. Right now, we're just looking at the data about it, and then, I don't think there's anything in the survey specifically about that. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, but I'm just saying that it might drive how the kind of developers we try to engage with. If someone does do that and seeing that is a viable part of the mix.
Certainly,
Right
nothing
now
would
it's not.
preclude us from doing that, but as they said earlier, we're not quite that far along yet. Right. But as we get to that far along, that's, I think, something that would be worthwhile to consider.
Yeah, I think this is all great discussion and great, notes that we'll make to be able to inform that. I think, we've already started to have, at least a little bit of conversation with the city, who will have zoning authority and all of that. And so, just making sure that we're moving forward, in a way that's going to be in it, I guess, to address the other comment of false hope is we don't want to put something out there that we don't think is going to be feasible to move forward. And so that'll be the hard work that's in front of us still, is to identify the right funding sources, identify the right opportunities that are going to be attractive to developers to actually make a plan happen that is a feasible plan and a plan that's going to meet community need. And, as I said, that's kind of the hard work that's ahead of us, but we've got good data to inform that work, and now we got to get to it.
So what kind of timeline would we be looking for on this survey as far as moving it forward?
Yeah, I think once we get the full set of comments from everyone, we can start to discuss, Tricia and the group here at SCH, about when we'd like to let that, be public, and then the duration of it, which might be 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. And that could be done, early next year. I say let's wait on that till after the holidays, so people have time and they don't just delete it right away if they get it in their inbox. But we'll put together a list of locations, a timeline for draft that Tricia you can look at and kind of run past everyone if that works for you.
Yeah, I think we can finalize that and make it live as soon as you all are comfortable with the questions. And so if there's a good opportunity to get it in front of folks, we can have it ready to roll tomorrow if you've got, if you're comfortable with the questions. But I think, let's make sure we're comfortable with the questions, and then, take advantage of opportunities to get it in front of people and start getting it out there.
So if I could ask if you guys have comments or questions to get them to me by Christmas, and then I'll connect with them right after the holidays, the holiday.
Once the survey is done, how long will the analysis take?
It's a good question for SEH. Once the survey is concluded, how long does it take you to crunch all the numbers and create reports for us?
Oh, that'll take us less than a week to take all the survey data and get that out to you and kind of broken down of what people said. And we'll have a meeting. We'll go
If
through
we
it
have
all.
a pile of paper ones?
Yeah. Well, if you have the paper ones, we'll enter those in manually.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we get 1,000 paper responses, that might take us a little longer than a week, but hopefully it's not that many. Well, hopefully it is that many, and then we'll take
Yeah.
it longer. But,
It is that many.
We're happy communities.
Any other questions from the committee? This report. Anything else you gentlemen want to leave us with?
Happy holidays. Hope everyone has a great time the next couple weeks here coming up.
Thank you very much, and we'll talk again once we get our ideas down for the questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right, continuing under reports, item B, UW redevelopment grant application update.
So the budget has been reviewed with ELA, and everything's approved pending underwriting. So the couple of things that we learned is we're not able to pay ourselves. So we had some plans to have the highway department do some work. They will not be able to, so we'll have to reach out with a different entity to do that. We can pay for supplies if we decide we still want to do the work, and then we would just keep the labor costs, and then the supplies could be covered. But we're hoping in early January to have everything all finalized.
The final approval.
The final approval.
That would be good. Once we have that, then we can start getting the money flowing, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
And just to reassure people, the bridge is still included that we already built out there. We will get that cost back, so out of the grant. That's good.
Yeah, very good. So they did ask that we request the money in 3 different times. So we'll probably right away request the money for the bridge so we can get that. That is almost 1/3 of the grant. And then we'll kind of time out the other ones.
So are we requesting the 2 million? How close are you to it, or?
It's over. We went over. If we would have went under, we could have never gone back to request more. So we made sure it was over.
Always ask for more in a check.
Working with government, yes.
And so that's why we're really going to have to kind of start to prioritize what are the order that we're going to be doing things in.
Questions on the grant? And we will move on to item C, administrator's report.
So I have had a discussion with the school district about the items in Melville. And they asked that we do not dispose of anything until they take it over. They take a look at what items they may want, and then after they took what they wanted, we got everything that we wanted, together we'll dispose of everything else that is left. I also spoke with the Wisconsin River Area Habitat for Humanity. They are very interested in lots of items. They said doors, you know, other things in the inside of the buildings that we're looking to demolish before we demolish. So how we left things with them is we'll connect after the holidays and see what we can arrange for them to come up and take a look at things. They don't want desks. They said they don't take like cubicle supplies. But there's lots of chairs, lots of other things in there that they said they would have interest in. We sent him some pictures and he said, yes, please.
Very good.
Extension, we currently have a request for proposal out to do some remodeling at the community services building for the space that extension is going into. All of those bids are due on the 23rd by 3 o'clock. And our goal is to have the work done by the end of February, with the move-in date being March 1st for extension. I have talked with the school district. They're also okay with this plan, and do not have any issues with that. They are in the process of doing RFPs. The school district is for surveying. And so once they get that set up, then we'll work together to do the surveying, and hopefully we'll also be able to do the surveying for the Simon's Land. But our grant will cover the surveying cost. That is what I have.
Questions for the administrator? Committee first, anybody? Mr. Mayor.
I don't know how much stuff is left. I know the buildings have all kinds of stuff in them. Does NHS need any neighborhood housing? No, really.
We haven't been out.
The reason I just brought it up because you guys weren't in the conversation. We've had a few long conversations lately about what they're dealing with. And that's why I said it. I don't know if you guys have talked at all.
We haven't talked, but we can.
Not a whole lot. We really haven't. And yeah, so thank you. But no, we appreciate conversations. That'd be great. And glad you're reaching out to our partners at Habitat. That's great. I think it would be nice for us to connect in another way. So, yeah, probably just that.
Do that, thank you. Any other questions for the administrator? All right, let's go to item 8 on the agenda, discussion and possible action, designation of land to be transferred to the Simons Center.
So I think at our last meeting, there was a map presented that led up to and included the wooded area up above. I think at that meeting, we had some discussions about not including that land and keeping that with the county, and not having to go to them on if Simons is transferred to a different entity. And so we did take that out. Here's the latest map that was presented. This was reviewed by the natatorium board, and they were comfortable with this too. I think one thing that we're going to have to remember moving forward is with the tennis court area and how we received funding back in the 80s for that, we're just going to have to really be very careful on who has ownership of that land so that we don't have to pay that grant back. And so that's something Mike and I talked about this morning. And there are some ideas out there that we have of making sure that it's maintained in the future and that we're honoring the grant obligations.
Questions from the committee? Mr. Carroll.
Does that layout address Mr. Lynn's concern with parking and the amount of room available? I can't tell.
I know from the conversation we had at the natatorium board that there is some space there for additional parking, but we would have to make some certain considerations for it, not just for the fact of parking, but for the fact that traffic would be potentially flowing through there as well. There has been discussion at the natatorium board of, okay, we have to keep the tennis courts, but do they have to be in an exact spot they are now? Not necessarily, as long as it's the same size. So would it make sense to maybe move them and have additional parking in that area? That's a future consideration, but as far as drawing the lines far enough to allow for options with not just parking, but also, potential expansion of the building, I think that's where the set of lines came from and the recommendation from the natatorium board. Todd, you were there. Mike from Simons, you were there. Al, you were there. Mr. Carroll.
At some point, there'll need to be a CSM done, right? We want to get our common understanding before we have that done.
And that's what the school district right now, they're working on getting the surveyor, and the surveyor will do both. They'll survey what the school district will get, and then they'll also survey what will be attributed to Simons.
So at this
Mr. Mann.
point in time, if using that new bridge as a starting point, and you go across what is basically the parking lot in Simon's now, will we still have access or be able to call it a roadway through there? Or is that going to revert to nothing more than a parking lot and we're blocked off of there?
No, the offer from the school district granted us the egress, and we will just have to make sure when we complete the final documents that we will have that right away to get through there.
So would it be nothing more than a right of way? Would it be a Hero Street where we could really be using it?
I guess I would be,
The thing with what development we're looking at,
right,
I just hate to shut us off, especially a $700,000 bridge.
Part of what we're proposing is that driveway over from Hive Drive at the high school towards the back end of the Simons parking lot there, so that would be another point of access. And yes, there are concerns about impact on parking and impact on pedestrian traffic, so we want to make sure we address those. But as far as it being like an actual street from Highway 14 all the way to Simons, I don't think it'll be a street. But our agreement with the school district says we will have an easement for access there, so people will still be able to get to Simons from Highway 14 and vice versa.
and I think some of these discussions about where the streets are gonna be, where the roads are gonna be, are really gonna depend on what the developers come with. You know, we're gonna want to make sure that we are doing things that's supporting development and supporting having people come here and build on that land and build on that area. And so I know there's lots of questions about where roads will be, how they will they be city, will they not, how will we fund that? Some of this stuff we can't answer because we don't know what we're looking for, we don't know what the proposals are going to be.
I just want to make sure we, for the 700-some thousand we paid for that bridge, that we have good accessibility there.
Yeah. And that'll be the attorney. Well, you know, I will really be making sure that when we do finalize all of this, that the attorney, the corporation counsel that we have will really make sure that those are the things that are protected for us.
Jason first, and Shirley.
I think in that vein, would it be possible, Trish, to maybe include some type of language that allows the county in this extended planning process to have access to land that may be dedicated or given to Simons, but there's a clause written in that says if it should ever be needed for contiguous traffic patterns, that could be allowed or would be allowed.
The land that is allotted to Simons?
Yeah, like for example, the way that's drawn right now, there's a possibility that there could be a road that would be through road from Hive Drive alongside of Simons through the front of the parking lot and over that bridge he's talking about. So I would think it would be to the county's benefit to not, offer that without a clawback clause that says in the event that we need to use that for the overall development of that area, that would be a possibility.
We could look at that. As we look at putting streets and roads through there, we also want to make sure we're still preserving adequate parking for everything. And when you build parking lots, making sure there's a place for all the water to go properly and all that, so.
And I think Simons has thoughts and hopes of expansion, so I don't want to put something in place that, that takes away their ability to expand.
Right. So, multiple pieces in motion we'll have to keep track of. Oh, yes, Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
So I'm not clear on the status of the county conservancy area. The woods,
The trails?
all that.
The trails, we are not going to transfer to Simons because our intent is for those to stay with the county, even if Simons' status should change someday. Simons will control them, but they won't be part of the property itself.
So they'll.
So if Simons were to
day-to-day
someday-
management then?
I'm sorry?
Day-to-day management and maintenance is what I'm asking.
Maintenance, our public works department has been doing, which isn't a ton. They mow the trail basically. But Simons is getting a grant to put up some signage and benches. But if the ownership status of Simons were to change, say it transitioned to a nonprofit, well, that land back there with the trails would not go to the nonprofit. That will still be county property. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Shirley, you had a question.
Thank you. So on the list of things to consider for the layout, I would ask you add that there's proper space, an adequate space for fire trucks to get through there and ambulance.
Yep, emergency vehicle access is important, and that actually came up at the natatorium board meeting too. I think that's one of the reasons the orange line went closer to the campus library than what it was originally drawn. Yes, go ahead.
I would suggest that before you make any conveyances to Simons, that you finalize where your dedicated streets are gonna be, so that you have your access before you make any conveyances to them. Because as you say, at some point they may become privatized, and that is going to definitely affect whether or not they cooperate with street dedication. And if you limit your access, then you're gonna limit what you can do with the property. And so in my book, a dedicated street needs to be the first thing that's done, not later.
See how we can approach that. Okay. Other questions or comments? So at this point, what we're looking to do is get the lines drawn. Is our action today going to actually make the conveyance, or will that be a separate step we do later?
And does it just need to go to this board, or would you want the full county board to approve this?
I think to draw the lines, we probably would have authority to approve that within this committee. When it comes time to move the land and dedicate it to Simons, I think that's a full board
Okay.
action, probably through personnel and finance as well.
Okay.
Anybody else in the committee?
That sounds great.
Okay.
So yeah, if you guys could give me permission to go with this, so that when the surveying is set up with the school district, we can come back with proposal 2 here.
Have a motion in that regard. Motion by Mr. Schoonover, second by Mr. Perry. Any further discussion on moving forward, getting the lines drawn?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we're just confirming that we're approving this proposal A.
Yeah, proposal A, and moving forward with getting the survey and lines done at this point. Not actually conveying the land just yet. Okay. Any other questions?
Just to make sure,
Madam, yeah.
still leaving us with a right of way at a minimum, through that parking lot.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of our sale agreement with the school districts.
and we will need it with Simons too, because that, the shed just north of there is the county's right now. And then to get to our land up there too.
Other questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, move that forward. Item 9, discussion and possible action, proposed subdivision in the city of Richland Center.
So at our last meeting, Mayor Coppernoll and Jason came and gave a presentation on a potential subdivision. Their council agreed to continue the discussions, and so today's opportunity is for you guys to start to talk about the proposal that they gave. They are both here to answer questions if needed.
Last time we discussed it was information only. Tonight it's agended as, or today it's agended as a potential action item, so we could determine to move forward. Obviously, it'd have to go to the board, but we could move it from this committee forward if we chose. So I'll ask our city representatives, you had a little more refined information for us to share?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what you're seeing there, as a result of the last meeting, I went ahead and I had a professional engineering firm, Beer Engineering, do an estimate, right? A rough estimate of what development could cost in that area. So they created this estimate that you have in your packet, and the approximate cost for the development of infrastructure would be in the area of 2.1 million. So that's around, if I remember right, it's around $117,000 a lot if you use the lot layout that we've kind of been talking about. Now, with all of this, I would just say that this is all very high level concept, high level estimates. And so what we'd be you know, what the intent of this estimate was to show, again, that the city's very engaged, that we've got money that we need to figure out how to invest in our community, and it has to be on infrastructure. And then also to show that that the city council, and the mayor can speak to that, is very interested in advancing housing for the city and for the county. So there is a cover sheet that went to the actual city council that is in your packet. It's headed City of Richland Center Agenda Item Data Sheet. You can see what I reported exactly. So when I go to the Common Council, I pretty much will follow this exactly. So the council voted unanimously to allow myself and Administrator Oliphant to partner or try to move a partnership forward in whatever way possible.
So if you scroll back, Derek, there was a map there that showed the chunk we're talking about, the one before that. So there. So that is to the north and west of Simons.
Mhm.
That's the particular hunk of property we're talking about that's currently part of the campus property. What we're working with on SEH is the rest of the property. So if we were to proceed with this, and our feedback from SEH has been that this is not incompatible with what we're talking about for the rest of the property. This would actually fit in pretty nicely, so.
What is that acreage?
Maybe, no, I can't pull it up.
Does it show it on the next map at all with the,
I don't think I,
it's just got the lots, it doesn't have the.
Open question.
How many
What's the-
acres?
I should have had the acreage calculator on in my lines up there. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Ed.
Good question. I don't remember the answer either.
But it's largely focused on like the tree line northwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when this was presented in 2021, at the time, first talked about it, Hive Drive wasn't a city street, which it now is. And the concept was to run, again, at that time, the school didn't own what they do now, and the Simons expansion wasn't even proposed, so we were just looking basically at your yellow circle back up there. And what we talked about then was running a city street more or less behind the trees off of Hive Drive, because you don't want to run one off the curb toward
Right.
the school. Just kind of roughly talking, right? What makes sense? Just run a street to the right off Hive Drive and access that. And we didn't get any further than that because at the time the campus was still operating and it just stopped. The land was in a lease, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea still in my mind is obviously serve it with Hive Drive. Bridge is in great shape. It's a street. It's going to get some upgrades the city's involved in, and then use that to service it. And then, you know what? That's a great illustration. It's a blank slate. So Dale drew that up. Dale Bender drew up what you've been shown 5 years ago. Great idea. We could do exactly that. But that's what we have to work with right there. What do you want to do? We're talking about putting houses up there. He's saying 17 or 18 feet. I love that. You're talking about where the price points need to be and all that. Okay, so why this has so much appeal right now for the city council is because infrastructure costs derail housing projects in general all the time. When he just said $117,000 a lot, that doesn't count buying the land. If you had to put a street in, if Hive Drive wasn't there, construction costs, all of that. So if you're the developer and you're going to try to sell that thing, and we just said, what do you think these houses need to sell for? Anybody in here? What do you think realistically those houses need to sell for? In Richland? Okay,
Really three to start
Really
with.
fan out for the developer.
that's it. To make this work for a developer, so they even care to talk to you. It's got to make them some money, right? So that's why right now, the unique nature, the county owns the land, the city has some grant money, makes this so appealing because when you put that cost in there and now the guy's got to build and we're saying these houses got to sell for maybe 300 and he's going, but the cost is higher than that. And it would, if we didn't have this grant money and so on to use. That's why this has everybody's eyeballs right now. And this comes up all the time. It's why we did not get a grocery store in the spring of 24. We had it done. Until it was $1.5 million short on infrastructure costs. And then we had to try to sort that out and they moved on. It just took too long to get there. That stuff happens all the time. So understand the great opportunity this really is. As we sit here and talk about the need for housing, which nobody's even debating, just details, right? You guys have this great property sitting right there by the school, by Simon's, on and on down the list. So much of the stuff you would have to pay for is either there already. If you had to put a turning lane in there, that's $300,000. You don't, because it's there. Again, it's a win. But okay, then you go in here, we have an infrastructure grant. We can't use it for anything else. Golden. Nobody's going to be tempted to try to use it for anything else. Let's get some homes built. So do you think 17 or 18 houses? I think that's great up there. Does the committee think it's great up there? Or not? I mean, you're the ones that will decide this. It's not the city's thing.
Right. And so, just to be clear, that we'd be looking at the county is contributing the land, the city has the infrastructure grant, and then you'd work with a developer to get them built, right?
Yeah, and now, and then in Baroqua, I've gotten to know, if any of you know Levon Feldman, who's in my high school class, he grew up here. He owns Sleepy Hollow Auto Sales over there. I'll bet you've met him. Behind closed doors, all that stuff happening in Baroqua is happening with him in the room, getting the deals done and taking them to the city. It's a completely different mechanism for there. And they're trying to work with the county too. And what would he say about this? Infrastructure, boom, 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 do it. So over there, they're going through the same stuff, trying to get houses built. And they got some acreage right on the highway. They worked on it 13 years. And finally, the family sold them 23 acres next to the highway. And all of it is sold. And the stuff off the highway is getting housing and the stuff on the highway is going commercial. And it's all sold. In the first summer, they sold all of it. They called multiple developers. And several are building 2 or 3 houses so that they get them faster. Because instead of having one developer do 17, how long does that take versus if you had 3 or 4 doing a few apiece, go faster, get them in. Stuff like this that can all be worked out, but that's the advice he gave me on anything we do down here that's working well for them so they go faster. And then if you want to control the cost, if you want to make these fit what people in Richland County can afford to pay for a house, you gotta control the infrastructure costs. This has the opportunity to do that. If you guys, yep, I'll stop.
So Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
The Veerbeker estimate, it's based on this 17 unit sketch.
Yeah.
And they know where the tie-in points are and all that, more or less.
Yeah, I paid them to do a quick review and they're a consistent consultant for the city, so they're pretty informed.
Is this, I guess the other question I have on there, again, I know it's a rough estimate, the professional services. Does that mean they would then do the actual blueprints for the infrastructure and do the ongoing permitting and all that stuff? Or what all's in the 12%?
Well, that's the design calculations for all of the infrastructure. And then like you're saying, all the construction documents, then it usually includes construction management. So they actually assist us in finding the contractors that are gonna be installing the infrastructure. Usually includes oversight of that process, so field review, field inspection, and then all the way through a completed product. So
My point was that number, again, it's rough, but I want to make sure there's not some other chunk that we're not including in there yet to get the infrastructure in place.
yeah, I mean, I believe the estimate is that. Could it be 10% more? Yes. Could it be 20% less? Yes. I mean, it really is an estimate until we start getting into the place where we're looking at soil types. We're looking at exact distances and we're doing, flow calculations and all of those things. We're not going to have that precise number. But when I asked them, I said, we need a rough estimate for what it's going to cost to provide the infrastructure so it's development ready.
You're talking road, septic, sewer, and electricity.
Correct. And stormwater management. Yeah. And to answer the question that was asked earlier, it depends where you draw the lines. It's between 10 and 12 acres. 10 and 12 acres.
Sure.
So thinking about the timeline here, is it practical or even reasonable to move ahead with the infrastructure before our developers even been inked?
So, again, number one, we have a grant that we have to move. We have to move on it. Obviously, it's the municipality's, my responsibility to get a return on the investment as fast as possible. So from an economic development standpoint, we have to have a developer. So there have been I appreciate Craig being here because there's been a lot of conversations recently about different partnerships that could exist. I mean, we've got Wahida, we've got NHS, we've got other developers. And if we go out and say, we've got an agreement, a partnership with the county where they're providing the land and the city has the infrastructure, that opens up a lot of avenues for us to move forward on. But to answer your question, I do not believe that in our case, it's going to be wise to wait for a developer. We have to get the infrastructure there, and that will be an enticement to developers. And hopefully the provision of the infrastructure and the land to, let's say, do speculative housing will be enough to bring people in. And it may not be a single developer. It may be multiple housing, home builders that decide, hey, I'd like a lot there, I'd like a lot there, I'd like a lot there. We'd sell them off, try to recoup some of the cost associated, and off we'd go.
So kind of confirm my point, we could move on the infrastructure without having a developer in place yet.
That's going to be my recommendation.
Because our grant is strictly for the infrastructure, and if we don't get it placed, $1.5 million is going to evaporate. Doesn't make any sense. So to get that up there, and then I will tell you this, I'm not talking about like a formal discussion at all. Just local people who build have been calling me. I would build houses up there. I haven't said anything. They just watch the meeting minutes, listen to WRCO and go, when are you guys gonna do that? You'll call me, won't you? And they don't want to build 15 of them, but they might build 2 of them, that'll get them up there.
Mr. Woodhouse.
I'd encourage you to take a look over on East Kinder Street. The NHS house is about built, just about finished up. And I'm here with Andrea. We work together at NHS. Andrea said she'll sign us up for 5. And we're serious. They would be in the affordable category. There's a hinge between affordable and workforce housing. We have agreements with the modular builders where we can get them at a discount. As a nonprofit housing agency. And then we also have opportunity for subsidies and down payment assistance through the programs that we work with. So Andrea says we can do 5.
As we've seen on Kinder Street, they go up pretty quickly when you bring it in.
Yeah, they do. And then, you save some of those costs by getting the crane in once, to do a couple at a time. The one that we have, it is a full basement, which is a big deal. With egress windows, so that's buildable, 2-car garage. And we're still working with some of the price points and things like that. But I think are we comfortable to say a range of what we think this is gonna be? Yeah. Well, so with the subsidies and the programs we work with, you're looking at about I'm gonna not quite go to the level she is, but the 225 to 275 range. And it's a house that has value of over $300,000 that can be gotten for to get that ballpark. Garage, basement, 3-bedroom homes, 13 to 16 square feet.
Brand new.
So, yeah, this project has gone well. I think we just wanted to prove out the concept and just a little bit behind schedule, but everything else is going well.
I mean, what a great place to live if you look at where that is. You got Simon's right there, you got highway access right in front of you, but you're far enough off the road that it's still quiet. If you got school-age kids, but wow. I mean, that's a wonderful spot, and I don't know if those trees will be there forever, but if they are, you even have that between you and the road. But you're right there by the highway. I mean, that's a great spot. And if you guys can do 5, I'll bet you could find 2 more builders. It would take 5 more. That's 15 right there. You got 3 lots to go.
So you're quite confident, the city water and sewer would handle, this type of development right now?
Yeah, I've talked to the utility guys numerous times. We have infrastructure at Hive Drive and then, of course, running along Highway 14. So when I've talked about this over the last, you were part of the original conversations, 5 years, there's never been any expression of concern that we couldn't serve a subdivision there. Again, there's the caveat that we haven't done the finite calculations, but, we got pretty experienced guys there, don't we, Rod? So I trust their assessment, but there's always that final bit of engineering and finite calculations that we have to do to be certain. So yes, qualified.
I'm sorry, when there's a pump house, when Panorama went up, a bunch of infrastructure work was done on the other side of the highway. But if you know where Chuck Schaefer's farm is, his house has city water, city sewer at his house. And they could have had water, but he already had a well. But there's water and sewer manholes on that side of the highway at that farm. He's way further down the road than this is.
The city serves the high school with sewer and water.
Correct. The electric lines of the co-op, but sewer, that's a great point. Sewer and water are going right through there to the high school.
It's there.
Correct.
Mr. Lynch, you had your hand up.
There's 17 lots on this proposal, and I'm looking at the diagram that the lot sizes are 125 feet by 100. 0 lot line developments are a thing. Would it be reasonable to assume if these lot sizes were, say, cut in half, that the $117,000 infrastructure cost per lot would also be reduced, thus making the homes more affordable?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Al, density obviously helps. I do think that, like, even in the market analysis by SEH, they talk about how the condominium type 0 lot line housing are very popular in larger metro areas, but they tend to have difficulties in rural areas. And it's usually, I'm not sure why that is. There's usually some intrepidation by the people that would potentially be buying them of what happens when my neighbor decides they want to try to paint their place pink, and I don't want mine pink, and nor do I want a neighbor with a pink house. So it does require, and that's a pretty simple example.
Yeah,
but,
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think it's something we could look at, but it's also something that I've recognized is going to require a lot of work to get it established properly. And it is a newer concept for people here in the community. We do have a couple of examples kind of parallel. One is an apartment building where they buy kind of condo units inside the apartment building. Don't know what the covenants are. Sometimes there are fees associated. Then you have to have an association that's collecting fees. It's just much more complicated, but worth looking at.
I mean, to me, it's a marketing thing, right?
And even if this wasn't done for this particular, well, we've got the whole rest of the campus property we're going to develop too. So it might be a potential part of the mix for that.
And I'm coming at it from an affordability point of view. So
I do know when people get, say, kind of out of town, they like the larger lots. They're kind of trying to get what closest of downtown anyway, but yet close to town. And I agree with what you're saying, but to cut them in half, I think would take away a lot of desirability of being out there.
You want to see some half lots, come on over. We have them in our neighborhood if you don't want.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
You could build a $400,000 house on a half lot. Got to sell it right. Not that anybody's done that in the
That
summer.
was not nice.
I just say too, with, some of the conversations that, I was in a meeting with Trish and Derek and SEH, and we were kind of brainstorming on things, and I want to reserve the right to change this stuff because there's a lot of moving parts right now with everything that you're doing on the campus. We want to make sure that fits. There's talking about connectivity to Simons, connectivity to this development, connectivity to that all has to be thought through. And so I can envision an example or a scenario where the road doesn't come off a Hive Drive at that location. It actually comes partway across, which would be to the east, and then proceeds north, and then moves into more of a whole oval development. It's going to depend at the, on the professionals that we have at the table, and then SEH, kind of like what's the overall vision. So this just provides a very rough idea of what we could do with sizes of lots that are very reasonable. And to some of the discussion here, it's possible we could add 2 more lots because we downsize the lots by 10 feet apiece. So there's a lot of things that we need to work through, and that we would be counting on our professional engineers and consultants to assist us with, to make sure we're making the best decision.
Now, on the map notation, if there's a top part that's blocked off, says parcel lots, no water, is that an elevation concern, not able to get water
Yes.
pressure there?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why it stopped there. And I just thought of this. I don't know why I didn't say it the first time. I don't know if everybody in here knows who Dale Bender is. Dale oversaw City Electric about how long? Long time.
Yeah, 10 years.
The reason he drew that where it was because the utilities could handle it. And then stopped. He's the one who wrote no water into this.
That would be my handwriting.
Yeah, on this one, but when he did it, he wrote it on that line because any higher than that, you can't get adequate water pressure up it.
They'd have to be private well.
They would have.
To be, and there are solutions to that too. So I just wanted to make it clear that normal water pressure from our towers don't support it. However, you can put in boosters, there's different things like that. And if we had to, we could move to a well situation, which we don't honestly like very much. But that's a good point, because those would be developable parcels as well. And so but we wouldn't have to put the sewer would be there, but the water, so the cost would maybe be a little bit less, and perhaps we could drive that overall lot cost down that I was mentioning.
By that time, you have a neighborhood, and there's an attraction for additional lots when there's already construction there.
I think that it's really exciting. I mean, Hillsborough, 7 years ago, when I started, I went to Hillsborough right away, understood that they had a subdivision where they actually came up with grant funding, put it in. They were selling lots for $5,000, and at the time they had 4 or 5 new homes going into a subdivision in Hillsborough. And here we are in Richland Center with 1 a year. Like, I have confidence, especially with the blessing of having the funding that we do, that we're going to be able to fill this up, and it will be great momentum for the city and the county.
Mr. Carroll.
Housing in general, I just wondered, since you guys are here, where is the status of the
Panorama?
Yeah, Panorama.
They've started building too. They'd gotten the holes dug and all of that, and then we got a foot of snow or whatever it was. And so they stopped and let the snow stay in the ground, in the hole, so the frost didn't get as far down in it. And I expect them to be moving again like right now. I haven't heard from Dwayne in a few days, but his plan was, he's looking at the 10-day forecast 10 days ago to get moving and start the concrete work. But they intend to build through the winter up there. And I want to say this before we lose it. I need everybody here to be thinking about traffic patterns out here. We got a high school. There's going to be more and more coming onto that campus property between houses, Simons, whatever. And there is a 46-unit apartment building going next to a 45-unit apartment building. I hate that intersection. You're coming in from the west at 55 and it drops to 30 in one move. Awful. And you got high school kids pulling out, and you're going to have 91 apartments on the hill. And we're going to put houses maybe on that hill and grow Simons. The DOT is going to end up hearing this from all of us because they're going to need to. And you're going to end up with a controlled intersection because we need to push that. We're going to have a real problem if we don't push that, because the way the DOT does that, they're going to say, you don't need lights. There haven't been any fatalities or serious injuries yet, which floors me, but that's the policy. It's not red flagged, really. So before it gets red flagged, because that literally means somebody's dead or in the ditch, We gotta be together on how we wanna develop the whole thing, including that, because the city's got apartments going up, you've got everything you were doing. And that's gonna be a bottleneck, with or without 17-year-olds that have driver's licenses. So I'm really concerned about it. I mean, I just don't want that to get lost in the development here. I don't like it now, even dropping 25 miles an hour in one move. Because somebody's, the reason they don't want lights there, a reason to not put red lights there, somebody's gonna rear end, somebody's paying attention to nothing coming in at 55. We gotta be on this as part of the plan.
Question,
Perry.
you mentioned your grant has to be spent. What is the time frame?
Well, so we do have an agreement with the high school to help improve Hive Drive, and we were wanting to do that next year. And so with the right support from this committee and the county board, our intent would be to be moving forward really rapidly and potentially start construction next year on the roads. Don't know that we would have anything ready for housing until 2027. The grant's good to 2032, but we've had conversations at the city, with decision makers. We can't sit and wait for, unfortunately, a process that, let's say you said, well, we need you to just wait until SCH comes back in June. We can't wait until June for SCH to come back with something and say, oh, by the way, we're just not really interested. We've got to move on this money. We've been sitting on the money already for a year and a half. We've got to move.
This was originally the reason we got this grant. We were trying to help get a new hospital built. You remember they were going to do that. So we talked to Derek Van Orden and Tammy Baldwin, and they got us this money. Well, then they didn't build the hospital. Well, there's a bunch of restrictions if anybody that's ever touched a grant. It has to be used for infrastructure because it was for that. So we can't, put a new, anything else. We can't start a library, any of that stuff. It's got to be for this. And it's just unique that we wound up with this money in the first place. And then we've had to talk to Senator Baldwin's office, Mr. Van Orden's office several times about what they'll let us use the money for because it was for a hospital. And we've shown them this. And we said, housing study, this and that, and they're okay with this because it's public purpose. It makes sense. Well, then HUD's got the money. They did the federal government sent it to HUD, and HUD is sitting there on go. We don't get any of the money till we tell them how we're using the money. And this is one of the things we'd like to do.
Mr. Carroll.
So what step do we need to take to move this on?
What we'd be looking for is to move this on to executive and finance,
Yeah.
to county board to move forward, right?
So move.
Second.
Okay, there we go. Got a motion, further discussion. Go ahead, Tracy.
I think we need to just really be thoughtful in making these decisions. We have the whole campus property to think about. We have buildings to think about. We don't want to, and I just think we need to be talking to SEH about this process, about where we're at, how this developing should look. We need to figure out how this agreement between us and the city looks. Is this going to be a joint? Is this a 50-50? Is this we turn over the land and they do it? We really need to be talking through all of these steps and how this is going to be looking, because we have the whole property to think about. And I know one of the questions that I asked Jason is, what happens if a developer comes in and says, we would love to develop, but we want it here, not there? Is the infrastructure movable? Is it about developing in this area, or is it about developing the property? So those are just things that I think we really need to think about and not rush through it, because there's a lot of unanswered questions at this point.
Mr. Carroll.
Agreed with all that. When's our new corp council gonna be up and?
January 1, but when I talked with our current corp counsel today, what he said is he's comfortable with me starting to shift to the new, and Nathan's willing to start taking on the new sooner rather than later.
Can be talking with the city about, okay, so if we move forward, what does this look like? Are we handing over the land and you guys agree that then you're gonna develop it? That's probably the simplest from the county's perspective.
But we also have to then look at, does that lower the value of the rest of the property, and does that impact our ability to develop the rest of the property?
Just increase the value.
Or
Could
does
go
it
either way.
increase?
Ever since Platteville pulled out, this is always what I envisioned.
Yeah.
We're certainly not making money renting it out for profit.
True.
I think it should raise our value, because it's already started, and I see other houses, even if it's above or whatever, building off this site. So I think it's a great idea.
It also may inspire other development.
Yeah.
That's
If there's
possible.
housing,
It's possible.
maybe some commercial.
That's possible too. Mr. Carroll.
So in terms of making sure we're still aligned with, and coordinating with SEH, will that be you, Trish, that keeps them in the loop, or?
Okay. So with the idea that there'll be more conversation to put some details with this by the time it would get to executive and finance, which will be in early January, right?
Nine.
That okay with your motion to move forward in second?
So I got one other
Yeah.
question. So does this have to be surveyed off the rest of it before we move ahead?
Before we would transfer it to them, it would have to be surveyed.
Right.
And then if the city's gonna subdivide it, then they have to get all those lines drawn.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of, I think the important thing, and we'll have to brainstorm about that, is to make sure that the commitment is firm, because once we start we'll start spending money immediately, right? So we've got to start looking at the contours and where the stormwater retention goes, and we're starting to do preliminary design work. So we've got to get to a place where, right, both sides are comfortable, but with the city, the ones holding the $1.5 to $2 million purse, we've got to make sure we're comfortable with spending that money and turning in the application to HUD and all those things. So we'll get to work on that kind of language there, and see what we can come up with for future consideration at the next meetings you have.
What would be the date of our January executive? January 13th is our executive and finance meeting. And county board would meet the week after that.
January 13th?
Yep.
What time? 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock or executive and finance.
All right, I've already got that.
Chairman Turk,
Yes, Mr. Williamson.
I don't think we'll have enough information by January 13th to make well, how do I say it? I agree with Trish that, we have a lot of stuff to look at in less than a month to try and get the information that we need to bring to executive and finance. It's gonna be challenging with the holiday season.
Certainly executive and finance is free to act on it however they see fit when they get it in. They may decide, no, we're not moving forward on this yet. We want to wait till February, you know.
Yep, I would agree. We can move it on to them, but I don't think we'll have the information we need by
Okay.
January 13th.
So any further discussion on our motion to move it forward to executive and finance? Whereas all in favor, say aye. Aye. When opposed? All right, we will move it on to executive and finance for the January 13th meeting. Item 10, discussion and possible action set future meeting date for the campus reconfiguration committee. It seems when we're talking about the study, the survey timeline and everything, that early January is probably our most opportune time. We like to look at.
So do you want to meet with this before executive and finance?
I think it's there. We talked about it a little.
Well, we could talk, we already voted to move it on to executive finance, but if there's additional information we have in hand, we can certainly share those updates.
We had originally tentatively planned for the 21st, but if you want to go earlier in the month,
I don't know if we have to. I mean,
okay.
we can have that discussion at executive finance about the housing crisis, so.
Time.
3 o'clock,
Wait, what date?
it's the 21st,
21. What day of the week is that?
it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Not looking good, Steve?
What time was that again?
Well,
Proposing 3
22nd?
p.m., but we're seeing some wrinkled foreheads.
I was hoping before that, but if I can't make it, I can't make it.
This is for campus again.
Yeah,
we could look at the 14th.
yeah, I was just gonna say.
14th is good.
Does the 3 o'clock time work for everybody?
3 o'clock on the 14th.
Seems to be where we're at. That okay for you, Steve, online?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have township at 6, but I should still be.
Oh, you should.
You better.
Depends on how long you want to talk.
Hey, never know. Just make a motion to adjourn whenever you want.
He's good at that. So future agenda items.
we'll be able to review them.
Grant, any updates we have from the city at that point, we can certainly share. We're already moving it on to executive. We'll talk about that on the executive will have been the day before. But we can get a report on how it's standing. Anything else? Updates on conversations with NHS?
Yep.
Any other agenda items for the future?
At some point, are we just gonna wait for SEH before we talk about the east side? There's nothing new for us to discuss till they come back with that.
As far as proposed uses, things like that?
Call it phase 2, whatever you wanna call it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we're waiting on with them is the survey process and everything to come up with ways they would look at moving forward with the eastern part of the property, so to speak.
Chairman Turk,
Yes.
probably an update on where we're at with the RFP on demolition.
Okay.
The demolition RFP.
Yep, that would be good too. Any other items?
Could we possibly put this survey format like out on the radio somehow?
Well, we'll publicize it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Use the radio,
We will use every available avenue to publicize.
because obviously the more we
We'll have
get.
Gary Manning standing out of the street corner, lighting it up.
With his computer.
He'll be handing out.
Make me a little sandwich board so I can stay warm.
Any other future agenda items?
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on, did we have any correspondence?
You have the one from there's actually two from Mr. Lentz. There's the one I believe some of you mentioned that he sent out to all of you. There was another one that was uploaded in the packet regarding parking lot placement.
Yep.
So that was in there. It's not gonna be on this, but it will be. I'll update the packet later, so those
Okay.
two from out.
Very good. Thank you for sending those out. All right. Now then,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn and a second from Caro. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Have a Merry